Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Marina Young, and sitting in the guest chair today is Daniel Packard, CEO of Full Liberation Technology. And Daniel and I are going to be talking on the topic how to go quickly from stuck to unstoppable. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you so much for having me, Myrna. Hello, Transform Your Minders. Maybe we can call them Transformers. Um, and it's just, I know I've listened to some of your episodes and I got a feel for your audience. And so to your audience, it feels good to share this with you because I know they're going to appreciate. And I want to be really clear with what I'm sharing with your audience so that they know to value it, but also it's innovative in its effectiveness. And so I want to make sure people get what this is about right up front. And that is my company helps people with what we call the Funky Five. The Funky Five is not a funk band, although it could be. The Funky Five is anxiety, procrastination, people pleasing, perfectionism, and low confidence. And low confidence can be self doubt, low self esteem, needing people to like you. And your audience probably has one or multiples of the Funky Five. And your audience, because they're seekers and they want to be better people and they want to transform their mind, they've probably learned some things that'll help them manage or improve or have awareness around the Funky Five. But most likely it's not gone. And that's what people want. They want freedom from these things so that they can be their most fulfilled, magnetic, joyful selves. So what I'm going to be sharing with your audience is a hidden piece that we discovered that explains why no matter what you've tried, no matter how much you work on yourself, you're never fully free of it. And it's not what you expect. And it's super simple. Everybody missed it. And when you hear the real reason that you're not able to be free of these things, you're going to understand two things. One is it's not your fault. It is not your fault that you keep repeating these patterns. I'm going to tell you whose fault it is. And then also when I share with you the two discoveries that my company made that make it possible to be free of the Funky Five, it's going to give you hope that you don't have to keep living like this. You can get off the hamster wheel and on to the merry-go-round. How does that sound, Myrna?
All right, that sounds great. Now, I'm not quite sure if I should read your bio. You introduced it there. But all right, well, you can see that, Daniel is very excited and passionate about what he does. That's why I wanted to get him on the show. And he's correct. Almost everybody has at one point in time, if not currently, is dealing with one of those funky fives. You're right. It does sound like a band. So, welcome, Daniel. So, all right, guys. So, let me give you the formal introduction to Daniel. As he just said, he is the CEO of Full Liberation Technology. He's a mechanical engineer. And Daniel and his research team spent over 8 years and over $1 million in research and development to reverse engineer an innovative system that's helped thousands of people live healthier lives by being free of what holds them back quickly and permanently. So, to reiterate what Daniel just said in the introduction, what you're going to learn in this episode is the hidden root cause that's creating the patterns and behaviors that's holding you back. Because you know what? Once you clarify, once you get to the root, one of the things that I say as a coach, you can't fix anything you don't know about. So first of all, you've got to clarify it. You got to know the source, right? And then we're going to be talking about a simple mechanical tool that addresses the root causes quickly so that you can be free for whatever is holding you back. And he's claiming that can do that in a matter of weeks. Right. So if you're tired of putting band-aids on what holds you back and just want to be free of it quickly and permanently, then listen to the end because Daniel has got a gift for you. Right. So let's dive right in. And I want to start off by being curious. You made it a point to say that you're a mechanical engineer, and mechanical engineering and philosophy and psychology and mental health don't normally go together. So, how did you come across developing this system that gets people unstuck from anxiety or your fact fives, as you call them. Anxiety, procrastination, perfectionism, people pleasing, and low confidence.
Well, it's a great question because it'll make sense why an engineer is actually qualified to get better results than the experts in the traditional field. Um, because essentially the experts aren't getting great results. And the part of the reason they're not getting great results is because they're regurgitating the same old stuff over and over and over. There's value in what they're regurgitating, but they're what I call learner shares, whether it's psychology, spirituality, coaches. You generally learn something that's valuable to you, and then you want to share it. Nothing wrong with that. It's valuable. And if what's being shared and learned solves things quickly, great. But it's not. And as I'll explain, anxiety's on the rise, addiction's on the rise, happiness levels are down. So we're not getting the results that we want. And so what we need in this industry is an innovation. And that's where engineering comes in. And here's how I even ended up here. So our company's mission and passion is results. Measurable results, fast results, and one of the two favorite words, permanent results. So no more ups and downs, no more going to a retreat, feeling great, then back on the couch eating Cheetos. Permanent results so that you're free of it. And the reason that results matter to me so much is because when I was a kid, my dad was a physicist and also really an inventor. And he sat me down one day when I was a kid and he said, Daniel, anybody can have a theory or an idea. But the person you want to listen to, the person you should trust that really knows what they're talking about is the person that gets results. Results matter. And I remember him saying that, going, that's really a good point. Results are what we need, not another theory, not another idea, not another app. We need results. And also, my dad was generous enough. He had a workshop and he let me use his tools. And I became a little childhood inventor. I would see things that I wanted to build. I'd go into his workshop and I would invent things that worked and got results. And it's very satisfying. It's a certain way of being where you look at a problem and you innovate a solution, then you build it till you get it to work. And I loved this inventing and getting things that work. So then I went to engineering school to be professionally trained how to look at a complex problem, break it down to its more simple mechanical components. Then you build a prototype and you test it and you get results. It often doesn't work. So then you got to refine and calibrate and tweak until you get something that gets results. And so the good news was I was talented at this. I was trained to do this, and I knew how to make machines work, but nobody taught me how to make life work. So I knew how to make a robot that could play ping pong, but I was anxious, insecure, people pleaser, perfectionism, and had the confidence of, a stool. So not poop. I mean, like something you sit on. I just want to clarify.
All right.
Anyway, and so, like your audience, I go looking for help. I spent $100,000 on coaches, therapists, retreats, gurus, apps, meditations. And after 10 years and $100,000, it was better. I had awareness. I had some tips and tools to manage it, but it was never gone, Myrna. And I could feel, I just kept doing it. And I was like, there's a version of me I want to be. There's a life I want to live, but I can't get off this hamster wheel no matter what I do. And I had this sort of sad moment that all the things that I'd learned, while I appreciated, they just didn't get me the result that I wanted. And there's a real results issue in what I call the improvement industrial complex. It's $1 trillion a year industry, trillion with a T. Okay. But it's not getting people fast, permanent results. And I turned to God at some point and I was kind of mad. I looked at him and I said, what do you want from me? I know this is a test, but I've been working on this for 10 years. I put out $100,000. What's the test? What do you want from me? And I was just being pissed. I didn't expect an answer, but what I heard was this transmission of what my dad told me, which is results matter. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I know how to get results. And this industry needs innovation. So I started my own research company, Full Liberation Technology, with the mission to see, could we reverse engineer an understanding that made it fast and simple for people to be permanently free of the funky five instead of managing it for the rest of their lives. We didn't know if it was possible, but we had to try. And it was much harder than we thought. It was 8 years. It was $1 million in research and development. We worked with 3,000 people. We worked with addicts in South Africa. We worked with athletes in Europe. We worked with monks in India, entrepreneurs in the US. And also, I was working and using the tools as well as we were developing them. And about 4 years into the process, I woke up one morning and I just felt oddly calm. My mind was quiet, and things that scared me before didn't scare me. Places where I was insecure, I had confidence. The procrastination went away, and I didn't care whether things were perfect. And I thought, oh my God. But then I thought, there's no way this is permanent. It's never permanent. But 1 week goes by, 1 month goes by, and it was permanent. And my team saw this and they said, we figured it out. We figured it out. I said, no, 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 no. We figured it out for me, but that wasn't the mission. We have to systematize this to make it so that it's fast and simple and reliable. We want it. So another several years to systematize this online system that we developed. It's 6 weeks. We have a 90% success rate, and it's very simple and easy to do and stick with. And the result is that if you work the steps, you get the result, which is that you get to be free of these things so that you can be the person you were meant to be and be fulfilled and of service.
Yes. Well, that's great. So I can definitely attest to the fact that mental health, in coaching, what I said earlier is the philosophy that coaches go on is that if you can figure out your clarity, your past failures, and understand the mechanics of your thoughts, then you may be able to permanently fix the issues and become unstuck. But when we're getting into the mental health space with anxiety and depression, it is a bit harder to do that because now you have a chemical imbalance. That's what I was told. Now, I've been doing this show for a long time and I read a lot of books. So I get a lot of knowledge from coaches who are my top guests. Um, I've talked to a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists and all those things. And one of the things that they say is that you're right. Mental health, people go to therapists for 10 years and don't make a dent. You're right, because it's never permanent. So, I mean, I thank you for sharing your story and letting us understand how why, as a mechanical engineer, you innovated some things. So I'm actually very curious to understand what is this innovation that you and your company created or reverse engineered. But before we get on to that, let's keep the suspense going a little longer. You made a claim that the coaches and therapists and maybe even psychologists are just putting band-aids and they're just managing the symptoms. Why do you think that they in their field it's so hard to do? Why is it that you, after spending 100,000, would get back on the hamster wheel? What is the problem there?
Well, I've thought about this a lot because I'll explain to your audience what we discovered that makes this very simple. And that's the innovation is the simplicity. And honestly, it was sitting right under everybody's nose. And I've asked myself, and this happened 2 months ago. I had a client who he spent 7 figures on the therapists, the coaches, sports psychologists, and and he went through our 6 week program. And about halfway through, he sent me this message. He said, this is so simple. How did they miss this? How did they miss this? Now, I don't know why. Here's my best theory based on I've spoken to clients, I've spoken to coaches, and I've spoken to therapists, and I've spoken to spiritual teachers. And when they've seen what we do, they said, you're right, we could have seen this, but we missed it. The first thing is, I think they're just okay sharing what they're sharing. They've learned some things that is helpful and they share it. And there's value in that. And they're sort of good with that. Look, I'm being helpful. And this helped this person a bit. There's value in that. I don't think they're wired to go, that's not enough. We need to innovate and find a solution. That's where your engineers come in. We are bloodhounds that when we see something, I'm going to make that better. It's a certain way of being. A lot of people were like, yeah, candles kind of suck. And maybe something electrical that's permanent is better. Nobody did anything, but Edison goes at it, 1,000 prototypes until he gets it. They knew how to fly. Basically, they saw a bird. They knew why a wing works, and they have the equation of how to make lift. The average person isn't going to do it. The Wright brothers spent years tweaking and dialing, and because they wanted the solution, that satisfaction, and that's a lot of hard work. And you have to be passionate about it. So I think the average coach doesn't bother them that they're not solving anything quickly. And that's okay. It bothered me. Results matter. And I want to do something better. And the other thing is, I mean, this is other people's opinion. There's way more money if you never solve it.
Of course.
That's why it's $1 trillion a year industry.
Thinking, right. Yeah. The therapist wants you to come every week, right?
Yeah, you go to school, you learn some things, you get a couple hundred an hour, and they just keep coming back.
Yeah,
I get it. It's a great business model. What we did was way harder. It took 8 years, and we don't want you to see you after 6 weeks. We want to solve this quickly and get you free. We're not getting rich off it. The money is in the management, but the satisfaction is in the solution. Can I get an amen, Myrna?
Amen.
Now, I know your audience likes what I'm sharing. They're like, ooh, engineering, solving, being free of this sounds great. I want to share with your audience the discoveries that we made that make this possible, because otherwise your audience is going to say, well, how is it? That sounds too good to be true. And then also, I'm going to explain the perceptual framework of what's the actual root cause and a simple solvable solution. And then at the end of the podcast, I'm going to send your audience to my website, danielpackard.com, where they can download a free 90-minute training where they can actually apply what they're going to learn right now so that you can feel and get a real result quickly. Because again, my dad said results that matter. So right now, can I explain to you sort of how it's possible and simple to be free of the Funky Five?
Of course, of course.
All right. So as engineers, scientists, there's a principle that basically, if you can make things simple, you probably already know what's going on more. If things are confusing and complicated, you probably still need to learn. Newton, basically with 3 laws, described all of motion on planet Earth. That's pretty incredible. He simplified it. Einstein took this very complicated thing and comes up with E equals MC squared. So the really innovative minds usually can take something complicated, make it simple. It usually means you know something. And when we looked at the $1 trillion improvement industrial complex, just looking at it and based on my own experience, it's super confusing. You know, one person says, oh, it's a mindset. One person says it's your ego. One person says it's trauma. One person says it's society. One person says it's hormones. One person says you should be in ice. One person says you should walk on fire. One person says you should, push through the fear. One person says you should be. It's so confusing and complicated. And we just said, let's try to simplify this. That would help a lot. So I'm going to explain to you a much simpler understanding of what's going on. Okay. Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. So to you, Myrna, and your audience, what we are taught and what it looks like is that we have multiple problems. It feels like, oh, I am a procrastinator. I have perfectionism. I struggle with anxiety. I have it feels like we have multiple problems, and there are multiple books and multiple experts telling you there are multiple problems to solve. And what we discovered through our research was you do not have multiple problems. What you have is multiple symptoms of one singular thing, which is fear.
Yeah.
Let me say that again. You do not have multiple problems.
Yeah.
You have multiple symptoms of one thing, which is fear. What that means is you can call it anxiety, or you could just say you have a lot of fear and you call that high level of fear anxiety. You could say you are a procrastinator, or you could say I have a fear of starting and finishing things, and I call that procrastination. You could say I struggle with perfectionism, or you could say you have a fear of making a
Failure.
mistake and you need
Right.
things to be
Mhm.
perfect. You could say, I'm a people pleaser, or you could say, I have a fear people won't like me, so I'm going to put
Right.
everybody else first and myself last. You could say you have low
Yeah.
confidence, or you could say you have a fear to be your natural, true, authentic self. So, can you see, and I'm asking you, Myrna, and your audience, that on some level, it's true and simpler to say we don't have multiple problems. We have multiple symptoms of one thing, which is fear. What do you think about what I'm saying?
Well, I agree with that totally. I've known that for a while, actually. That yeah, fear is there's two things, polarities in the world, you know. I think Tony Robbins says it. We either go towards pleasure or we go away from pain. So there's only two things. So when you're fearing is because yes, I agree with that totally. The only one that is not a shoe-in is confidence, but everything else is very true,
I
right?
hear you. I can tell you, I had
Mhm.
confidence issues.
Yeah.
3 months ago, I had a former professional athlete who had he cared what people thought of him. He had self doubt. He had a fear of rejection, fear of failure.
Okay.
And he said, well, that's not fear. And all I can say is our system, which addresses the fear, his confidence skyrocketed. So,
Okay. I got
and
you.
myself
Right.
included, I would get around a pretty girl that I liked and I would turn into Forrest Gump. I would just be like, you smell like vanilla. I would be very awkward. And now I've
Right.
used our program as long as there's no fear,
Mhm.
confidence skyrockets. But still, now, when I shared it with you, you said, yeah, it makes total sense. And if your audience is listening, they'll think, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But here's why this is important. It makes sense, but that's not what being sold. People to say, "Oh, I'm a coach that helps with procrastination,"
Mhm.
and maybe they can, but that's the symptom. So if you're going
Right.
to an expert in the symptom, you will never fully solve it because you're just getting tips and tools for the symptom.
Right.
So while this is intuitive, that's people are selling the symptoms and you'll never be free of symptoms. And that's why people keep procrastinating
I
because
agree.
these coaches and therapists and
Yes.
spiritual teachers have not figured out how to fully heal the fear. But does it make sense that if you could be free of the deep fear,
Yeah.
probably you'd be less anxious,
Yes.
less caring what people think of you, less perfectionism, and less procrastination, if not have it be completely gone? Does that at least make sense?
Yeah, I agree with you totally on that. Yes, if you get rid of the fear, then your whole world opens up to you like a flower, right? But
Exactly.
yes, but the
Yes.
problem is that fear is deep rooted. And a lot of times people, like for instance, they say face the fear and face it. And once you face the fear, then it runs from you. So tell me about your solution. Is that, I don't want to, talk on your program, but that's one of the ways that you can get rid of this fear. Once you understand that's what your problem is. You're right.
Well, I'm going to push back a bit on you and say, I don't think that's true
Okay.
because there are people who understand fear, and you'll hear things like face the fear,
Right.
overcome the fear. And I went to retreats, I went to coaches that said, face the fear, overcome the fear. That is great short term. There's a fear, and instead of running from it, you go towards it and you face it. Great. You take some action. There's value in that. But it's an inefficient model because if you face the fear or overcome the fear, there's just one downside. The fear is still there. You have tools to overcome it, but it's still there. If you overcome a hill, that's great. The hill is still there. So we said no more facing the fear, overcoming the fear, pushing through the fear, heal the fear out of us so that we are free of it. That's what children are. They don't have the
Okay.
fear yet. And that's why you'll never see a 5-year-old at a Tony Robbins convention. You'll never see a 5-year-old say, oh, I really want to go to the park, but I'm doubting myself. I'm
Right.
thinking of finger painting, but I really want it to be perfect. The fear hasn't kicked in and
Right.
they're free.
You're right. It's
A
learned.
child
It's
doesn't
learned
overcome
behavior.
fear.
Yes, fear is learned behavior and it's learned from your environment. I do agree with that. And yeah, I heard you mention something about, walking on fire because that's one of the ways that you push through the fear. And I've done a lot of work on fear. And yeah, I mean, I am under the impression that anything that you anything that you you let's say if something is wanting to take over you, right? And once you let it know that you're aware of it and you're not afraid of it anymore, then you get rid of it. But if you're saying that it will come back again in another way, for instance, my son-in-law has a fear of bridges, right? And I discussed it right on this program, how, people are saying that if you're afraid of going over a bridge, and I'm saying, somebody said to me, well, maybe he can, I don't know, they had a solution of, I don't know how, because I said that if you have a fear of going over bridges, how can you face it? You got to go over the bridge, right? I heard people talking about they have a fear of walking under, scaffolding and all that. And I personally think that once you let something know that it can't control you, then it doesn't control you. But yeah, let's hear your model.
Well, there's some truth to what you're saying.
Mhm.
And again, it's not a bad strategy, but here's the issue. First of all, through white knuckling it and a lot of terrifying repetition, there can be fears that you have where you're able to lower the fear. I had a client who came to me and I have a terror of public speaking. I spent 6 years with a coach and
That's one of
now
the big
I'm
ones. Right,
relatively comfortable on stage.
right.
I said, great. I said, what about a fear of opening up in your relationship? He's like, oh no, it's still there. What about a fear of being vulnerable? Oh no, it's still there. What about the procrastination? Oh no, I still do that. So you can find specific fears, and with a lot of work, you can kind of muscle and override it. But
It's true.
I was working with a client, and I was on a podcast with someone who teaches how to not be afraid of public speaking. And I sent him the 90-minute training, which I'm going to let your audience download at the end for free. And he listened to that 90-minute training and he listened to it. He said, wow, what you're teaching is very, very effective and fast and simple. And I said, how do you know? He said, well, because on some level, I applied this to myself to address my fear of public speaking. So I know what you're teaching is mechanically sound. And I said, how long did that take you? And he said, about 6 years. And I said, yeah, we got it down to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That's the key, is the
Yes.
efficiency and not having to white knuckle it for years, but also not just fear in one area, healing the fear in all areas. And here's why this is possible, is because we said, what's causing the fear? What's the root cause of the fear that makes this solvable? And that's very key, because sometimes people say, well, we learn fear, it's from the past. The problem with that is that doesn't lend itself to a quick, simple, solvable solution. So we said we need a perceptual understanding that makes this fast and simple and easy. That's why we have a 90% success rate. And also the 6-week program that we offer, we're the only company in the world where we don't charge at the beginning, because we haven't gotten you a result yet. We only charge at the end of our 6-week program when your symptoms, the funky five, and your fear is either completely gone or significantly measurably down. We're the only ones in the world that have that guarantee. And the reason is because this approach lends itself to a reliable, fast, guaranteed outcome. And here's why it's possible. First thing is we looked at what was being taught, of where the fear comes from. Primarily, we're told that fear is a problem of the mind. We're told, change your scarcity mindset, quiet the ego, stop catastrophizing, quiet the mind, meditate to quiet the ego. There's mental health experts, cognitive behavioral therapy, cognition. So people are taught that fear originates in the mind. Now, fear can occur in the mind, but what we discovered is that the fear in the mind is not the root cause of fear. The fear in your mind, the scary negative thoughts, is actually another symptom of where fear originates, which is not in the mind, but in the body. When we're afraid, do you say, I think fear or I feel fear?
Right. You feel fear.
If you
Like I said,
say,
I'm liking this. I'm liking this conversation because I have a subject in mind And I am pushing everything that you're saying. I'm running it through the subject because, like I mentioned, my son-in-law is feared of bridges, but he's afraid of a lot of things. He's a fearful person, and nobody knows where he got it from. So we're thinking it's generational. So I'm interested in this conversation.
It's
Keep
not.
going.
I know we're taught it's generational, but again, these are the people that are getting bad results.
Right.
So it's a great theory, but I'm telling you, I'm going to tell you it's not generational. And I have the
Okay.
authority to say it because, again, 90% success rate, not
Okay.
band aids, solving it, and we back up our results. I'll tell you where it's coming from. And actually, in the 90-minute training, that I want them to download for free, that's where they'll really feel where the fear is coming from. It's not the past. It is something that you're doing every day that's small, but you don't know you're doing it. And it's accumulating over time to create this fear. But it's
Mm,
not your past. It's not society. That's not helping, but it's something you do, but you don't know you're doing it. And that's why you can't stop it. That's what they'll learn
wow.
in the 90-minute training that I'll give at the end for free. But the mind is a symptom of the body. And this isn't theory. This is the way we are mechanically wired. Again,
Right.
mechanics. Our body and our soul and spirit is wired that your body feels what the body needs. And then your mind is a tool to get the body what it needs. You feel hunger in the body first, then the mind senses the hunger, and then the mind figures out how to get food. If you are in the jungle and you hear a sound, you will feel fight or flight in the body first. Then the mind senses the fear and says, uh-oh, let's come up with a plan to get out of here. So body first, mind second, which your audience knows because have you noticed that when you're calmer, usually your mind is quieter? Have you noticed that?
Right. Well,
Yeah,
I'm a meditator, and I know that one of the ways to calm the body is through relaxation. So I understand exactly what you're saying. Right.
exactly. Exercise calms the body, meditation calms the body, and the mind follows. The only
Right.
downside, it's not permanent. We figured out a
Right.
body based approach that's permanent, but absolutely, you
Mhm.
quiet your breath, you go to the body, and the mind shuts off. But
Right.
it makes sense. But here's the thing the experts are, they're calling themselves mental health experts. Well, no, you're at the symptom level. So A, you're
Right.
sending people to the wrong place. B, you're not an expert. Don't call yourself an expert if you're handing out pills and
Yeah.
band-aids. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're called an expert
Well,
when you get results. And
yeah.
I'm
Well,
telling your audience this.
I know that mental health stuff doesn't work. In fact, I've had a psychologist on the phone that says that it's like the way they work is like, yeah, you give you a pill and you're saying it's like cutting off your arm because you have a mosquito bite. So yeah, it doesn't work, and that's why it doesn't
Yeah,
work. Right.
people
So
know it. But
right.
also, and again, not to disparage anybody,
Right.
I've worked with professional athletes that went to mindset coaching and sports psychology. That's still mind focused.
Hmm.
And while it was helpful, it never healed the root cause of the fear. So it's not just the therapists, it's a lot of people that are sending people to the mind. I'm not here to disparage them, but I am here to tell your audience the fear is originating in the body. And that's why you haven't solved the fear yet. Not because there's anything wrong with you, not because you're going crazy or you have a weak mind. The experts, while well intentioned, sent you to the wrong location. You never stood a chance. But does it at least make sense that if you go to the right location, you're going to get a lot better results? Does that at least make sense?
Well, yeah, I mean, everything you're saying makes sense. And it's listen, we know that fear there is the one of the things I like doing is there's a list of emotions, right? And fear is at the bottom. So everything stems from it. It's yes, it's the bottom feeders it all, right? So everything stems from it. So this is something, and I know, and what's at the top of it? I think love or joy or something like that. So that's the opposite end of it. So yeah, so all right, so tell us about how we can get rid of this fear.
All right, I'm going to tell you. That's the
How
million
do we
dollar
pluck
question.
it out?
Because your audience doesn't, I want people to understand that it's fear and you don't have all these problems. And I want them to know it's in the body so they know the right location so that they don't blame themselves. They can realize it wasn't their fault and also just be more aware. but also your audience, whether I say it or not, gets that fear is a problem in their life, no matter what they call it.
Right.
What they want to know is, how can I be free of the fear quickly and
Right.
permanently? That's the $1 million question. And that is what we innovated. And what made it easier to do was because we saw the fear was originating in the body. The reason that's good news is the mind, nobody understands the mind. It's a million trillion, I don't know the exact numbers, synaptic pathways and neurons. They're just beginning to understand the mind. But the body is this beautiful mechanical system. It's got systems. Your skeleton is a system. The heart is a system. Your eyes are, it's all systems that have mechanics. And we know that systems in the body can fail, but then be repaired to function properly. So we just said, all right, this is great news. All we have to do is find the system in the body that's creating the fear, see why it's malfunctioning, and then repair the system. And once we started asking that question, what's the system, not what in your past happened or what in society is causing, when we said, what is the system in the body that's causing the fear? Well, of course, we were more likely to find the system. And it is so simple and so obvious that on some level, you already know what it is. Okay, so take out the word fear, take out the word anxiety, and swap in the word nervous. Okay, let's just say that on some level, the average human is feeling varying degrees of nervousness. A little bit of nervous, we might call it worry or doubt. More nervousness, we might call fear, and a lot of nervousness we call anxiety. But let's just call it the word nervous. Okay, to you, Myrna, and your audience, what system in the body do you think is most likely malfunctioning and making everybody nervous? Keyword nervous. Do you think it's A, the endocrine system, B,
nervous system?
The nervous system.
Right, yes.
Yeah, and why?
Not the parasympathetic, the sympathetic, right.
Well, keyword nervous system.
All right.
And why did you know the answer before I even said it?
Because I'm in the space.
Well,
50% of what you're saying, I already kind of know, right?
You know it. The average person doesn't know it.
No, right, exactly, right. Mm-hmm.
And even if you know it, there's knowing it, and then there's the how. There's
I know it, but I don't know how to solve it, which is where you come in.
That's where I come in. Look, there are people that know it's in the body and know it's coming from the nervous system. They know what the problem is. What they don't have is the how, the actual tools and machinery to repair it. That's where engineers come in.
Let me just clarify. What I didn't know is something that you said that's, is very important, and maybe I should repeat it because maybe people have missed it. That the fear that we have is because something we're doing every single day, and it's compounding. Listen, one of the books I read in 2024 is A Compound Effect. So I know what compounding does. So a lot of people didn't know that, and I didn't know that. So yes, and then there's the second thing you said is that it's from a system, and it's the nervous system. Right. So I didn't know that. What I did know is that fear is the bottom feeler of all of the emotions. All the negative emotions, fear is the bottom feeder of it. Every negative emotion. So that part.
Yes, you got that because you've been at this a long time and you've done a lot to lower the fear. And that's why you have that vibrance and joy that people love. Also, it's kind of common sense, like, oh yeah, fear is underneath it all. The reason people don't go there and solve it is because they were never given a solution. So it's kind of depressing. That's why the point is, to clarify, the reason it's so obvious that we're nervous because of the nervous system is it's got the word nervous right in there. Like, think about that. Mm-hmm. You've got $1 trillion industry taking people's money and not solving anything, sending people to the mind. Meanwhile, there's a system in the body that's literally got the word nervous right in there, and that's not where they went first. So again, I say this not to disparage the experts, but to say they're not paying attention and they're missing the simple things that give you a solution. It's the nervous system, and here's why it's valuable, because it's in the body, And
Mhm.
it's a system, which means systems can fail and systems can be repaired. And exactly the
Right.
reason that the nervous system is malfunctioning. Here's the thing. If you have a healthy nervous system, your nervous system is designed to alert you of threats. If you have a healthy nervous system, you will feel a feeling that everybody wants to feel. And that feeling is safe. If you feel safe, you don't have fear. When you don't have fear, the symptoms of fear go away. Your heart opens up and you are the natural, beautiful person you're meant to be. What we discovered is there are little things that people are doing every day that, as you said, compound over time that are making the nervous system malfunction. Little things, undetectable, that are building over time. That was the key discovery. Little simple things that people were missing. And your nervous system is malfunctioning. And instead of feeling safe, you have a default feeling of unsafe. When you have a default feeling of unsafe in your body that's not going anywhere because each day you keep doing the things that keep you unsafe, the fear never fully goes away. You can manage it, you can understand it, you can learn it, you can do power overrides, but it's never gone. And the
Mhm.
symptoms of fear are never gone. The anxiety, the procrastination, the people pleasing, the perfection, it's never gone. And so the downside is you always feel unsafe. You can't fully be your full potential because fear is so strong, it'll slow you down or stop you. But also it's exhausting, Myrna. Always feeling the fear and then having to push through it and override it. It's exhausting. And so one of the most beautiful things that we see from our clients, I was working with an architect from Toronto who came to us for procrastination, perfectionism, and some panic attacks. Okay. And he came to us, he said, I've spent all this time and money. I can manage it. It's better, but I want to be free of this. And I was at a conference and I met somebody who said that you have this incredible system where you only pay at the end when you get results. So I was curious. So he goes through the program, and around week 5, his procrastination was gone. What that means is his productivity went from 1 hour a day up to 5 hours a day. His focus went from, I think it was 15 minutes a day up to, I think, 3 hours a day. His panic attacks were gone, and his perfectionism, he was just, and he started making more money, and more importantly, he was happier. And what he said to me was that it gave him access to being the person he always wanted to be. And like I said, with the fear gone, also, he had so much more energy because
Mhm.
it's exhausting being afraid. And what he said was the power of what you're teaching is that it's simple, easy to stick with. And if you work the steps, you get the results, which is that instead of managing these things, you are free of it. And I can also testament
Right.
because
So
I had all these
your
things, I'm
six
free
week
of them.
program is a system that targets the nervous system and allows people to stop doing the things they're doing every day. Yeah. So go ahead and tell us about your
Essentially,
program.
essentially, you discover the things that you're doing every day that are accidentally making the nervous system
Okay.
malfunction and feel unsafe. And then you basically bring the nervous system back to health. You have a set of optimized tools that work together with very simple, easy to follow instructions that bring your nervous system back to health. When you have a healthy nervous system, your default, how you wake up every morning, is to just feel
Safe.
safe.
Yeah.
So it's all online, everything's automated. But if in 6 weeks from now, I'm going to ask you, Myrna, and your audience, how much better would life be if your default, how you just woke up, was to feel safe from the inside out? How much better would one's life be, Myrna? What do you think?
Listen, your life will be great. Like I said, I I attempt every day I do vagus nerve meditation, which addresses my parasympathetic nervous system, which is why I knew where you were going. And I do that because I mentioned to you relaxation, clarity, health. I mean, you're talking about fear and procrastination and all those things, but if your nervous system is dysfunctional, you get diseases, you get sicknesses. So that's that's where I'm going with it. So it's excellent. It's listen, this is fundamental.
It is
It is
fundamental.
fundamental,
And
right?
we're trying to get this into schools. We're running a pilot program right now at a
Mhm.
US university because it's a simple way to bring your nervous system back to help so that you're permanently calm and confident.
Right.
And it's
Yes.
because it's an online program, it's scalable. So I want to be clear that that's what our 6 week program does. However, what I want to share with your audience at no charge is a 90-minute training called From Stuck to Unstoppable. You can download it at danielpackard.com, no charge, because I want people to know and do a deep dive and learn the things that they're doing that are accidentally making their nervous system malfunction. And if you don't address these, you're always going to feel unsafe on the inside, and you're always going to have the symptoms of the fear. You're then going to learn and understand how it's completely possible and even simple to get rid of the fear permanently. So you're not constantly doing techniques to lower the fear. It's just gone, leaving you free. And then at the end of the training, the best part, we're going to teach you one of the techniques that we developed. And when you apply that technique, you will feel measurably, and we're going to have you measure something that makes you afraid. Then you're going to apply this technique, and you are going to feel measurably calmer. That thing that scared you won't scare you anymore. And what that's going to show you is that this perceptual framework that we're teaching can work for you, and it'll give you hope that you don't have to live like this forever. If you want to get that free training From Stuck to Unstoppable, go to danielpackard.com. You can download the free training, and then you can experience this firsthand and see it for yourself. Have a real experience that you can trust and know where your fear is coming from, and that you can be free of it permanently, so you can be free of the anxiety, procrastination, the people pleasing, perfectionism, and low confidence, and ultimately feel safe. And then when the fear is gone, it just allows you to be happier, more fulfilled. And oh my God, you get so much more with way less work. This energy you feel, Myrna, this is not cocaine. This is natural because I'm healthy from the inside out. And that's what I want people to
Yeah.
have.
Well, you know what? I take care of my mental health by walking, meditating, and all that. So I know exactly what, and I'm not a very fearful person, but I'm pretty sure that I've got a few that I'm not aware of. But I know several people that has one or two fears, and we know that when you've got one or two fears, that it's a symptom of a whole bunch of other things going on in there. So I will definitely, pass on this information. And these are family members too. So I don't even have to go to my audience or my clients, family members that could benefit from your work and from this information. So this is good stuff. I mean, I'm appreciative of you being on the show, being so passionate about your work and sharing this because, like I said, this is fundamental, and a lot of people get it wrong. And yes, if you can, even if you only, manage this 50% and you still have 50% fear, your quality of life is still going to be so much better. Right.
Well,
All
thank you
right.
for appreciating it. It is
Yes.
pretty incredible.
Yes.
And it was an honor to share with your audience because they're people that want that better life. And we're just trying to get people the most effective tools to get the most permanent results in the shortest period of time. And
Yeah.
so,
Nobody has time. You know me. You talk to me about my time. And yes, nobody's got time to go to a therapist every week for 10 years. At least, I don't. So yes, the shortest amount of time is beautiful. All right, guys. Well, this has been a very exciting, passionate interview, and we're passionate because we like helping people. Daniel wants to help you. I bring this content to you because I want to help you. So what do we want to do here? We want to transform your mind so that you can transform your life. So here we're not talking necessarily about transforming the mind today. We're talking about transforming the fear from your body so that your mind follows. So I guess it is transforming it in a little bit. So I will have a summary of my conversation with Daniel on the show page. which is myhelps.us. I will link out to his website, link out to his free training. Daniel, what are your social media handles? Are you in social media?
I am, but I don't want people to go to social media because I want people to take action. You're not going to get a sweeter deal than a
Okay,
free 90-minute training that
okay,
teaches you a technique. Do not follow me. I don't want people following me. I want people to take action,
take
get
action.
a result
I got
so
you.
they can be free of this for the rest of their lives. So go to danielpackard.com, get the
Okay,
free training,
right.
and get an experience that you can trust. Do not follow me on social media. No, you could follow other people. Do not follow me. Take action to be
I
free of
like
this
that.
quickly.
I like that. Action oriented, right? Do something, right? Yeah, this is a call to action here, right? Okay, awesome. All right, so I will definitely link out to Daniel's website. Very easy. It's his name, danielpackard.com. And yeah, so this is great information. I am so honored to have shared it with you. Daniel, love your passion, love your colors for anybody that's watching. It matches your passion, matches your spirit, matches your energy. So we were in sync on that, right? So because I'm wearing the color of the sun as well today. So that's amazing. All right, guys. Well, listen, we're fresh out of time. Thanks again for tuning in to this week's episode of Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life. Today we're talking about transforming fear into from being stuck to being unstoppable. Thank you, Daniel, for being on the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. So as we wrap up, any last words?
Take action. Go get off the hamster wheel and get on the merry-go-round. That mic drop.
That's right. Drop the mic. Right. Yes. All right, guys. This has been enjoyable for me. So thank you guys for tuning in. Until next time, namaste.